Tara from livingonadime.com. This is my mother,
Jill.
And we are talking about how Mom lived on $500 a month. And today we are specifically talking about her housing. So we are the authors of the Dining on a Dime Cookbook, 1,200 Ways to Save on Your Grocery Bill, Recipes and Tips without using coupons. We don't like coupons. We don't have time for coupons. And then Mom's book, Penny Pension Mama, 500 Ways I Lived on $500 a Month. These are the actual tips that she used, like how she saved on clothes, how she saved on laundry, that kind of thing. These are the actual tips that's available in ebook form. I know this is a print. We're going to try and get it on Amazon sometime, but I wouldn't count on it anytime soon. So if you want to read it, grab the ebook. And all that is in the description below. Today we are talking about housing. How did you live on $500 a month and have a really nice house, warm house that you lived in?
You're saying that tongue in cheek.
Speaking of which, I need to write myself a note to remember for another video.
Oh, thanks. You're going to make me work even more. Well, we bought a house, what we'd done, and it was probably one of the best things we did. It was total gut job is what we had to do on it. I mean, it was beyond rundown. You see these before and after on the home network shows.
This was the nightmare before.
Yeah, it was really a nightmare.
Frankly, have you ever seen anything as bad as your house was before?
Not hardly. As a matter of fact, it was this house was so spooky that there was like a whole back section of the house that had the doors shut on the rooms. And it was probably a month, maybe 2 months before I even opened those doors and would go into those rooms.
For the family room and the kitchen and stuff?
Yeah, the family room and David's old bedroom. I was so scared of those rooms. They were just creepy. They were so bad. So this is how bad that house was. But we had nothing for a house payment. Absolutely nothing, because we lived in this. It was kind of hard to heat. We had to, go off into the back rooms, couple of rooms to keep warm during different times, because they had no good heating system, and I could see the curtains blowing when the wind would blow, just because it was blowing through the walls. It wasn't from the cracks in the window. It was blowing through the walls of the house. The wind would blow and move the curtains.
We have ice. Did you say we have ice?
Oh, yeah, we had ice on the inside. So then in the winter, we'd have to tape the plastic on the inside of the windows to try to keep warm a little bit. You were toddling. Oh, I remember one time it was like she had the stomach flu so bad. She was like 2. And I had to dress the kids very, very warm. They had to have a little t-shirt. Then they had another long sleeve shirt on top of that. And then they'd have a little pair of overalls. And then I'd have to put another little sweater on top. So we had layers. Well, when she would get sick with the stomach flu, it was coming out both ends. And I'd have to strip you down.
Mike's back there going.
We're supposed to be talking about houses. Huh? But this is how we had to do.
Yeah.
And so I was stripping her down 2 or 3 times a day, changing all these hundreds of layers of clothes, and you just dressed really warm. I had to dress both of you really warm. We had would have pajamas they wore, and then we'd have, like when they were babies, what we called sleeper sacks, and we'd put heavy duty pajamas on you, and then we'd put you in these sleeper sacks because they would keep their feet warm. It was like a little flat fleece-like sack, and we'd put you in there. And that's the way nowadays people, when they have the foot pajamas, that's usually all they wear is the foot pajamas. We didn't do that. We put pajamas on, pair of socks or a couple of pair of socks, and then we put the sleeper foot pajamas on top of that. That's how we had to do things. And I'm saying this because you say, well, how can I make it? Because my house payment is like $2,000 a month or $1,500 a month. What am I supposed to do? You may have to sell the house.
Get something you can afford.
And you may have to get something you afford.
It might be a mobile home. It might be a trailer. I mean, honestly, it may be a trailer house, like an RV or something.
But if you're serious about getting out of debt, and I mean really serious about doing this, and I really recommend doing it.
Yeah.
Because you think the stress of living in a trailer or a not cool, nice house would be horrible. It's not near as bad as the stress of being in debt. Mm-hmm. There's no comparison. If I had a choice, I would much rather change your layers of clothes than to have the debt when I was in debt.
So how much was your house payment?
It was $110 a month.
So she made $500 a month, and her house payment was $110 of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lived on the other, $390.
Yeah.
For all of our expenses, utilities, all that. Now, how did you pay for house repairs?
Well, I just didn't do them. You know, we had a hole in the roof, and that'll be in another story, but we had a hole in the roof, was so leaking so bad, we put a child's swimming pool up there, and then I'd have to go out and dip it out. I couldn't do anything to the roof until I figured out a way to pay for it. You know, I just didn't do these things.
Yeah.
We just couldn't.
We couldn't replace the windows and put in nice windows.
No.
We had to put up plastic. We had to close the curtains. We had
just
a window
may
air
do.
conditioner. We didn't have central heat and air. We used a potbelly stove with wood.
Yeah. We
heated only with wood. And our house was a huge 2,400 square foot Victorian. Old
10-foot ceilings.
Yeah, old Victorian.
Big old thing.
So we would close off 3 rooms in the winter and the summer. And honestly, we spent 6 to 9 months, depending on the year, back in those 3 rooms.
We did. We really did.
Because in the summer, we only had a
hot.
window unit that would cool those 3 rooms. And this was in Kansas, and it was hot and humid.
And sometimes we just had fans. You know, even now, sometimes I just used a fan to save on my utilities. And I was hot, and it was uncomfortable. But, you know, that's just what you did.
So if you're in that situation, you're probably not going to be able to stay in your nice suburban neighborhood house. You may have to go to a not so nice neighborhood.
But so you don't get discouraged, this is just for a time.
Yes.
It's just for a time to get out of debt. Because if you think about it, once you're out of debt, what are you spending? $2,000 on a house payment, $2,000 for credit card debt. Once that debt's gone, you're going to have $4,000 of cash that you can maybe use for something.
So during this time that Mom raised us on $500 a month, part of the money that she was earning, which we'll kind of talk about that in the jobs a little bit more, but went to go pay off our house. As much money as she could put to paying off our house, even if it was $5, she would put as much as she could to pay off the house.
And a lot of people don't, besides the interest being high back then, we had much higher interest. But on top of that, I didn't realize it till 15 years into it or something, but people don't realize if you just add an extra amount to the principal sometimes, you can get the house paid off faster. You know, loans are different nowadays too, somewhat. But, you know, make sure you know about all these things, because I could have paid that house off in 7 years by adding just $5, $10 extra amount to the principal each month.
Yeah, and like Mike and I, we figured if we make one, let's see, what was it? If we make one extra house payment a year, it knocks off 3.
3 off the end.
So if we can make equivalent to put on our principal one extra house payment a year, which is only for us like what, $50 a month extra, I think, somewhere around there. 75. I don't know, between $50 and $100 a month. So it's not a huge amount. And if we just put that little bit of extra on our principal, we will save 3 house payments off the end. And so you can really get it shaved off pretty good.
Check into those things. Just contact your bank that you've got the mortgage, and they will tell you, you know, and help you.
But we lived in downtown Wichita, Kansas. It wasn't the worst neighborhood in Wichita, but it wasn't exactly the best either.
It was an older neighborhood. It wasn't bad for crime, really.
Well, except for the guys who kept robbing the convenience store behind us and running through our backyard from the police.
But it wasn't like we had a lot of gang activity or anything. It was just a really old, rundown neighborhood.
And you may have to move to a different city.
Yeah, or a different state.
We did for a while. We moved to a different state for a while, and you know, you may have to move. You may not be able to stay
and
where
you say, well,
are.
I just can't leave my family, or my kids can't leave their school, and they'd be traumatized and stuff. You've got to realize being in debt the way you are is more traumatizing than any amount of moving would actually really be.
Yeah. And so, you know, this is when you're talking, you know, the middle of a divorce or a spouse dies or something, emergency situations where you have to support you and your kids. These are the things you have to do. This is not living in luxury at the moment. This is making do with what you have or what you can get to live within your means.
See, we're of the mindset that if we lose our job or if we're in a divorce, that we should be able to have everything still the same. Even young kids just leaving home, they think they should have the same size house mom and dad have, the same everything that mom and dad. You would start out renting a little tiny dumpy house and work your way up. Now we're of the mindset we should have everything that everybody else has and start out. But, you've got to get out of that mindset if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, and I honestly, if you have 2 people working in your family right now, I would not buy a house until you get a good chunk of cash saved up because really
Well, that's part of why I'm not moving back to Colorado yet because I'm having to save up to get money.
Yep. So that's pretty much what we did. Mom had a house payment that was about $100 a month. It wasn't the best house in the world, but it kept us warm and dry and shelter over our heads. Well, dry some days. Dry when it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
Because there were days where the
warm when it wasn't snowing and it wasn't winter.
So anyway, but yes, so that's how Mom saved on her housing, but still lived on $500 a month and had 2 kids. You can get her stories and tips, Penny Pension Mama, in the description below. This is her ebook. She's also the co-author with me, her daughter, Dining on a Dime Cookbook, 1,200 Ways to Save on your grocery bill, money saving tips.